How's it going, everybody? Thank you for watching this video on how to sample for mold in the air. Today, we're going to go through the actual mechanism of taking mold air samples. Now, one thing I'm going to caution you is that if you're a property manager, owner, etc., it's always a good idea to hire a consultant to do the mold air sampling. There's a few reasons why. Number one, you generally probably don't have this type of equipment lying around. So having a consultant come out, they'll give you a flat rate, they'll charge you per sample, or have an all-inclusive price, maybe the most efficient way to go. Number two, if it's not something you do on a daily basis, there's certain things that you may miss because it's not something you're used to doing. As a result, you may skew the data. And number three, it's really a liability protection. A lot of times hiring a consultant is a good risk management tool because you're hiring them as the expert. As a result, you're relying on them to impart their wisdom and their experience on whatever you're dealing with. As a result, hiring them, they'll be able to tell you what the results really mean, what it could indicate, etc., etc. But I wanted to show you what it takes to take air samples for mold, and this is how it's done. So first, you're going to want to use a sampling pump. Now, there's a lot of different options out there. This one is a high volume pump that's used only for mold air samples. What this basically does, it's a high pressure vacuum, and as a result, it creates a vacuum through this tube, and at the end of this tube is where we're going to use our what's called the cassette. So when I turn this on, you're going to hear the noise, and that's the sound of the pump working. Now, there's other options out there that's made by the manufacturer of this cassette, Zephon, that have different options that are much quieter. You can put these cassettes on the machine itself. It really depends on what your consultant has as a preference. Now, in addition to the pump, you've got the Tygon tubing. This is how the suction is created. This is how the airflow is created, and this is what it looks like. Now, this stand is always going to go on the ground, and this will be about 5 feet in height, 5 to 5.5 feet. Typically, what you want to do is you want to always have it in sort of like the breathing zone of the air sample. So if I was standing up, the air sample would actually be sort of this level from the ground up, which is why you have a telescopic stand. The most important part is the cassette. Now, the cassette looks like this. Now, I just took all the quality assurance stickers off, but this is what it looks like. It seems clear to you, but it's actually not. So what happens is, in between, this cassette is actually two pieces that have been combined together look like one. And this tape is holding that together. In a couple minutes, I'm going to cut it open to show you what it looks like in here. You hook up one side, which is a circle, into here like so. You have this pointed down at about a 45-degree angle, and then you turn this pump on. Now, one of the most important parts is to make sure that you verify the flow rate in which you're sampling. For mold air samples, the typical method calls for 15 liters per minute and sample for 5 minutes for a total of 75 liters as the volume. So once I turn this on, you're going to see how loud it is, and that's the sign of the pump working. And you also hear kind of a whistling sound with the cassette. So ready? 3, 2, 1. That's the air sample working. Now, obviously, I'm not going to sample for 5 minutes and bore you to tears. So I'm going to say, fast forward. Let's say the air sample is taken. What the consultant should be doing is putting the tape back on this way. And on the back, they're going to write down on their chain of custody the details of where the sample was taken, what's the volume, start time, end time, and that'll be that. Then this sample and all the other samples are then taken to the laboratory. And let's say I'm Mr. Laboratory, and I'm going to show you what it looks like here in this cassette. This is generally done by a third party, right? So typically you won't have your consultant take the air sample and analyze it right there. I can't think of a single company that analyzes their own air samples right on site. In very, very specific litigation scenarios that may happen, but 98.7% of the time, it will not. So as I'm cutting this and hoping that I don't cut myself, so this is how it started. Mind you, what I've done is I've cut down the seam and I've opened it up. And lo and behold, let me actually break the wall here and come close and show you what I'm talking about. And what you've got is you've got an air sample in which the cassette is collected, and then you've got this. And this is what any air sample that you take is collected on and is then looked at in the microscope. So based on that criteria, the lab will tell you how much and what type of molds there are present in this snapshot. It's a sticky part right in the middle, and that's what collects the air sample. Okay? And then this is what they look at under the microscope, and this is what it'll tell you. And it's really a snapshot in time. Now, one quick thing, when you're trying to take air samples, when you need to take air samples in between walls or in sort of wall cavities, etc., this won't do, right? Because you obviously, theoretically, you're not going to allow your consultant to cut open a hole this big in your wall. That's when your consultants will want to use contraptions like this that basically hook on to this part of the cassette. Obviously, in this case, I'm using a broken cassette, so keep that in mind. This end is the tip. You take that off, and then you can generally, this will allow you to take air samples in wall cavities and be able to tell you if there's any significant issues in the wall cavities. Now, whether wall cavity sampling is a good idea or not, that's a whole separate discussion, but I wanted to show you some of the mechanics of what we go through when we're sampling for something like mold. So I hope that was helpful. Just a quick summary: high volume pump, Tygon tubing, you've got your stand, you've got your cassette, you're gonna use brand new ones and make sure they're all within the date of applicability. You hook this up, this hooks on here, you turn on the pump, you collect the air sample for 5 minutes at 15 liters per minute. You use a rotometer to make sure it has the right volume. Then you take it off, do all the quality assurance procedures, take this to the lab will analyze it, and it will give you a lab report. Now in the next video, you'll be able to see what a lab report for mold really looks like and what it tells us as we're trying to analyze the data. So hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, feel free to email us at the email address below, and we'd be happy to answer them for you and live on the air. Thanks again.